What is going on? What is going on? We are back and black in the building. Man, what is going on? What is going on? You already know who the fuck I am. I'm back and black, melanated and highly favored. Back to back like the Lakers in the 80s. Back to back like Detroit in the late 80s. Back to back like the Chicago Bulls in the 90s. And back to back like Boston, which is a racist city as well. But anyway, shout out to everybody out there that's at the Core Plantation. Happy Mother's Day, happy Suckers Day. I didn't even know it was Mother's Day until I looked on Twitter. I forgot all about that shit, man. Shit, nigga be so busy. So shout out to all you mothers out there that's grinding and handling business. And shout out to all the terrible mothers too. So happy Mother's Day to you too. So it's because there's some terrible mothers out there. Trust me, motherfuckers think they're a good mom. And if they could, they would put their kid on eBay or Amazon to get rid of their baby. So shout out to everybody out there. Shout out to everybody that's at church right now praising Cesare. I'm pretty sure everybody like, I just thank God I made it another year. Happy Mother's Day to me. Praying to Cesare. Ain't getting no power. But shout out to all y'all that's out there that's praying to him. Even though he don't give two flying fucks about y'all. But shout out to you. That's what you want to do. Go ahead and do that. Let me know how that turns out. Shout out to all the mothers that want to fuck the pastor at the church. You know, always got to have these fucking meetings with the pastor. You ain't got no man, but you always got to have a meeting with the pastor. So shout out to, there's a bunch of women like that. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to all you lovely mothers. Shout out to all the mothers that singing in the choir. There's a lot of mothers that sing in the choir. It was fucking last night, but singing in the choir first thing on Sunday. Shout out to all you Sunday school mothers too. They can't wait to get to church, to get to Sunday school and teach the class, but been drinking Hennessy and shucking and fucking Saturday night. So shout out to all y'all that's out there that's handling the business, man. We got a lot of shit to cover in a short amount of time. Man, I'm going to get into it. We're going to talk about all these shootings, man. That's why the title is the Mother's Day Massacre. I mean, there's so many shootings back to back to back. But a lot of these shootings, they're not telling us who the person is, who the suspected shooter is. They're not naming this person. And what I think the reason why they're not naming who these shooters are, because they are a part of the dominant society. Because if it was a black shooter, you already know what they'd do. So we're going to talk about that and how to look and spot things and how to look at things from a different perspective. Because it's been a lot of shootings in Colorado ever since 1999, if I'm not mistaken. Columbine High School, them kids went in there and started shooting all them kids. So this is an ongoing thing, and we got to start looking at these things. That's why when you do your traveling, you be in these public places, always understand what's going on. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how, to me, I feel like they're trying to push a bigger agenda. Basically, I think they just want to take away gun rights, period. That's just my personal perspective. But here's the thing. I'm going to tell y'all this right now before we get into the subject. White folk are never giving back their guns. So y'all can be some suck-ass niggas and be standing in line giving back your shit, but them niggas ain't giving back shit. So you can forget that. That's one thing the dominant white society is not doing. They're not giving up their firearms at all. So I just think that I feel like they're pushing another agenda. Shout out to all you people that's out there that wants to go get vaxxed. If that's what you want to do, I salute you. Better you than me. But for all you niggas that is gonna get vaxxed, when you start to turn into a zombie like 30 Days a Night or The Walking Dead, don't be mad when I bop you upside the head. So shout out to everybody out there, man. We're gonna get into it. We're gonna talk about a lot of this shit. We're gonna talk about how this all relates back to anti-black racism and how this system of racism and white supremacy is a very, very smart but wicked system. Because when you start seeing all these mass shootings like that, just be aware. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into how they're not naming the name of the shooter, because I'm betting that the shooter is a dominant society person. So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to play a little bit of audio of that shit too. And RIP to those people that lost their lives. I guess, you know, we're going to get into kind of a little bit of the details. I'm going to play some audio about it, but I just wanted to talk about that today because it's like they want you to celebrate, right? Some shit that they made up. But how you really going to celebrate it when every time you look up it's some type of mass shooting stabbing or something going on, or there's some type of killing. And there's always an agenda behind the agenda. Remember that. So when you see people talking about fight for your rights and all that, look at who's backing these people. When you see people talking about, oh, guns kill people, look at who's backing those people. Because I don't think that guns kill people. I think stupid people with guns kill people that shouldn't be killed. So we're going to talk about all that, man. Let's get into it. Hey. Man. God damn, that's why a lot of times I like Miss Wendy. Shout out to Miss Wendy. Shout out to Shawnee. Hey, Shawnee, I seen that comment. Appreciate it, man. Hey, I know you be busy. You know what I'm saying? That's what me and Nick was talking about that shit too. So shout out to Shawnee too, man. And the reason why we was talking about that too, because Nick was like telling me, he was like, man, maybe we should do the podcast a little earlier so people that's, East Coast or whatever, they can kind of catch the lives and shit. And I'm like, man, you're right. That's a good idea. So we tried to kind of do it an hour early. We're going to try to get it down to about 4:30 really is the target time that I want to get so we can kind of get in, because 4:30, that means it's like 7 where anybody on the East Coast is, whoever's listening or might want to check it out. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to Shawnee. I know you be watching when you get a chance, man. It ain't no big deal. We ain't talking about shit. But if you ain't caught it, go check out the podcast that me and Nick did last night. It was a very, very good podcast, man. Shout out to Nick, bro. Very, very good podcast. Brother's really, really consistent. And before I get into anything else, I want to talk about that too. When it comes to dealing with anti-black racism, the system of racism, white supremacy, black folk, we have to be consistent at handling business, man. And we got to understand business. We have to understand business, and we have to understand if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. And we have to understand it in a business mindset. Not that I'm all business, but in a business mindset, when you're trying to learn how to handle your business correctly, you don't have time for stragglers and to be teaching people certain things. Closed mouths don't get fed. This was me and my bros Nick, we was talking about. Even me, Nick, shout out to Dom too. We always had these conversations because I always felt like, just in the past, I've always felt like black folk, we are so bereft of knowledge. And what I mean by that, we just kind of left out. We don't really pay attention. It's like somebody got to shove it down our face because we're not socialized to pay attention to a lot of the things that go on, especially when it comes to, I would say, generational wealth, when it comes to stock, bonds, 401k. We don't really pay attention to that shit till we get older. So it's very good and it's very, I would say, important and imperative that each one has to teach 21. And when you're conducting business and handling business and trying to study and learn and grow, the game don't wait. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't wait. So these are just things we got to understand. You know what I mean? And I'll say this. I am a firm believer of when you get opportunities and you can try to handle your business correctly, you take those opportunities. But I'm also a firm believer of the game don't wait. And I don't believe in no child gets left behind. I believe in this. When things are presented to you, you better jump on it. Because when you can't, that's no longer on the person that's giving you the opportunity. That's on the person that's not taking the opportunity. And I feel like us as black folk, we need to carpe diem, seize the day on any opportunity that we get. Because it shouldn't take killings, deaths, marching, whining, repeating for us to get on the same page, especially economically. You know what I'm saying? Because when you look at economics, when it's dealing with black folk, we're at the bottom of that list. Everybody else is before us. You know, I'm watching this show right now. It's called Startup, and it's on Netflix. It's pretty decent. But, you know, this Cuban sister and then this Haitian brother and a white guy, they all, I think, synchronistically, it's like synchronicity as far as like how they come together. I would say that. So it's all kind of aligned. So with that being said, you know, you got the Haitian brother on there, so he knows his Haitian roots, and you got the Cuban sister on there, she knows her roots, and you got the white guy who knows his roots. But it wasn't a foundational black person on there, which I didn't really too much like. I didn't like that at all, but I still watched it to see where it was going. And I noticed every time it was about, you know, talking about Haiti or the Haitians, all the Haitians are, you know, it was like they were their own entity, which is fine. Shout out to my Haitian brothers and sisters. Then you have the Cubans. They have their own entities, right? you know. But when it comes to foundational black Americans, the people who built this country, who fought in every war, you know, we get left out of these stories. And that's what I kind of was like kind of paying attention to. You know, because when it comes to every other racial group, they got this story about how their parents came here with nothing and built their wealth and all this other stuff, and they were in debt. And okay, fine, but I'm from the school of Dr. Claude Anderson. If you weren't born here, then you're a freeloader. And I don't care what nobody says, because I can't go to another country and just do that. And that's why I feel like when opportunities are presented to black folk, foundational black Americans, even if you're not a foundational black American, if an opportunity is presented to you, assess it. And if it's something you're going to fuck with it. But we as black folk, we can't get upset when the train moves on. We have to understand that it's business. And when conducting business, we cannot be lackluster. We can't lollygag. We can't do that. We can't be the people at the back of the bus taking all day getting off the bus. We can't be the person that we know we 10 minutes away from the bus stop. The bus comes at 8:30. We want to leave at 8:25, but we 10 minutes away from the bus stop. No, you better be there before. You better get there at 8:15. You better leave that house at 8 o'clock so you can get there at 8:15. So when that bus come at 8:30, you Gucci. I just think we have to have more of a sense of urgency when we're dealing with each other. And I think, too, when we are handling business and trying to be in our own path, we can't get mad at people that don't want to fuck with us at that moment in time because they're trying to be on they shit. So we have to look at that shit, too, because when I look at all these shootings and I look at all this stuff, I'm like, oh, shit, here we go again. Every other day it's a shooting. You know what I'm saying? Here we go again with this shit. Then you got Derek Chauvin. He won a retrial. Then you got the judge talking shit about Maxine Waters. These white supremacists are gonna take any distraction that they possibly can. And then when I watch the Colorado shooting, I'm just kind of like, so somebody just randomly went in there and did that? Like some of this shit it just doesn't sound real to me. It sounds like false flags. No disrespect to the family, because those family members that were slain in that shooting, they probably don't even know what a false flag is. They probably just a part of one. You see what I'm saying? And I just always look at things like, man, it's so many shootings. And when you go on the internet and you see shooting after shooting, you're like, God damn, man, how many shootings is it gonna be? How many shootings is it gonna be where every time you look up, it's a shooting? And I don't know, I just find it kind of odd that it was on Mother's Day. You know what I mean? And that right there kind of fucked me up. And then you got Dave Fauci saying, oh, you ain't got to wear a mask on the inside anymore. It's like, man, y'all niggas is playing games. You know, I saw this meme that Eddie Griffin put on there. And on the meme, he basically had different pictures. Like, oh, when you're working with radiology, you got a mask on, you got this. When you're working in a coal mine, you got a mask, you got this, you got all this other protection. Then he had a caption, the most deadliest virus in history, and all you have on is a mask. You ain't got no face mask on, no gas, no nothing. And it's the truth. You know, I look at those things and I'm like, okay, what's up with all these shootings, man? You look and you look and you see and you see, and it's all these shootings. Then you got this officer fatally shot a man who rammed his SUV into a Massachusetts police station. So they shot and killed him. A shooting was in downtown Phoenix. Leaves one dead. When you start looking at all these shootings, you better wake up, man. And don't just think that it's all good. Motherfuckers just celebrating and, oh, Mother's Day, you better be thankful, but be careful and be mindful, because some ain't right. All these shootings at one time, nah, man, I'm not buying that shit at all. You're like, why? Well, because, man, that just doesn't seem right to me. That's way too many shootings. So I feel like black folk, and too, a lot of it is the dominant society. But they have labeled us as the violent people. That's what I be looking at too, like, damn. Even on this show I'm watching, it's called Startup, it's on Netflix. The FBI agent, he's just crooked as a $4 bill, just crooked as a $4 bill, just kill his own partner, just doing all kinds of crazy shit. That type of shit. But that's what happens when you're an FBI agent. That's why I did a podcast about the FBI agent. I think it was in Alabama. And then he got fired for raping and sexual misconduct and basically taking pussy on the FBI and using his badge to probably get it. Then they fired him. So then he went to go be an Alabama state trooper. And then the Alabama state troopers was like, oh, well, we thought everything was good. Well, y'all didn't do a thorough background investigation on him? Anybody that gets fired from the FBI, you're not gonna think twice. Like, well, why would you get fired from the FBI? Not a police department, but the FBI. What the fuck was you doing? Because he had the complexion for the protection, and in the end, the dominant society is gonna always show their own the affection. Straight up, and that's never gonna change. That's why when I was looking, you can't find this. What did the last shooter in Colorado do? Didn't he say he had mental health and he got wheeled in the wheelchair? You don't even know about that motherfucker, but they ain't even talk about him no more. The last shooter, I did a podcast about him too, and the motherfucker came in the court with a wheelchair. That's why I be telling black folk, y'all better be careful with this mental health shit, because white folk gonna use it to their benefit, and they're gonna use it against black folk. So you better be careful with that shit, because the last shooter, he was a Caucasian. You know, I don't care if they like, oh, he's Pakistan, Caucasian, Asian, dominant white society. You ain't black. So you got to be mindful of that, because that brother got rolled in with a wheelchair. Talking about he got mental health issues. Now, mental health issues, how does that happen? So I'm going to play some of this audio of this shooting, and we're going to take a look at this shit, because I'm very interested to know what the fuck happened and why they're not naming the suspect and giving us a picture of him. So let's hear it. Let's see if they gonna play it, man. No, see, because they'll play commercials in a minute. I'll talk about the commercials going on. I don't do commercials. I don't get paid to do no commercials. Fuck that. And fuck these bullshit commercials, man. They're just trying to sell you something. Every chance you get, they're trying to sell you something. It's so funny, though. They can find all this money for stimulus packages and all this, but you still can't find no money for reparations. And then you always got selective people that are talking about reparations. We'll get on that, too. I just think it's quite interesting that they're not naming who the shooter is. Why are they? Because I don't think he's black.
Shot and killed 6 people at a birthday party before taking his own life. I want to get right to CNN's Paul Verkaman, who is following this for us. Paul, this is just awful. What more are you learning?
You are right, Jim. It is horrendous. It's an early morning Mother's Day massacre. 6 people found dead in a mobile home park in Colorado Springs. According to police, the alleged shooter drove over to the...
But why y'all not telling us his name, though? That's what I understand. When that police officer went rogue, they told us his pant size, his waist size, his shoe size, you know, what type of clothes he had on, the color of his eyes, his hair, his shoes, what color shoestrings he had. They spelled his name out for him like he was Destiny's Child. Say my name type shit. But it's a shooting, and we don't know what he looked like or nothing. If he was black, and if he's black, I'm going to be very surprised if this is a black shooter. But it's a mobile home community. You know, they give us the projects. They give niggas the projects. So I'm going to go ahead and give y'all white folk the mobile home community. So since it's a mobile home community, my money would be betting that this person is a part of the dominant society.
A birthday party was occurring inside. He walked in and he just began shooting. 6 people dead. There were also children inside, but in some sort of silver lining, all of the children were uninjured, and police say they are now with relatives. They found the alleged shooter at the scene. He was injured. They transported him to a local hospital. He later died there of his injuries. They have no motive.
But I'm like Destiny's Child. What's his name? What's his name? Because he shot some people, and I think we equal. Tell us his name. Come on, man. Why the fuck y'all not telling us who the fuck this person is, man? I feel like if it's a black, if it was a nigga, they would have told us everything already. They would have told us everything. But it must not, it cannot be a black person. It's got to be a white person. That's why they ain't telling us who it is.
And the entire community is heartbroken. Let's start with the comments of the police chief. He said that words fall short to describe the tragedy that took people's lives this morning. As chief of police, as a husband, father, as a member of the community, my heart breaks for the families and the children.
That's fine, but what is his name?
Who have lost their parents, and Governor Polis in Colorado also weighing in.
Yeah, I don't want to hear no more of that. What is his name? That's the problem, man. They're not going to tell you the name. But that's just the gist of it. I guess it was a shooting. What I think it is probably some meth deal going bad. Who knows? Because they ain't gonna never tell you. See, they want everybody to think all the drugs and shit is just black folk doing them. They making it seem like black people are the only people that do drugs. Like, they'll just skip over weed. We don't smoke weed. We do crack cocaine. And then white folk, they just do opioids. They do pills. No, it's white folk out there doing meth. It's white folk out there doing heroin. Matter of fact, why don't you just go to your local corporate plantation and go check the bathroom? They probably doing black tar heroin in the bathroom right now as we speak if you at work. And they ain't got no degree. But you in there suited and booted with a master's degree. Reporting to somebody that came off of Las Vegas Boulevard and Owens. For y'all that don't live in Las Vegas Boulevard and Owens, that's bum central. So that's like Skid Row for Vegas. And literally they could just take a white person from there, clean them up. That'll be your boss. Straight the fuck up, and they'll justify everything and act like they ain't ain't nothing going on. Some of the shit that I've seen at all these corporate plantations, man, will blow your mind. I just want to know why they ain't telling us what his name is. And the reason why I think that they not telling us what his name is because he's part of dominant society. Why would they tell us that? I think a lot of the times, too, we're not worried about it because we think, oh, it don't affect us. But, yeah, eventually it will. Just like that white motherfucker was Dylan Root, went in that black church and going to pray with him and start get to shooting. Now, I'm going to say this. I dare a dominant white society person to go to the Nation of Islam and sit in one of their services and think you finna get one off. That'll be your last thought, nigga. Because the Nation of Islam ain't letting you come in there and act no fool. We the only people that's the most forgiving and accepting people. And they can't wait to kick us in the teeth. They get joy out of that shit. They do. That's why I'll say it and I'll keep saying it. If you want to be an ally, you're going to read these books. And you're going to learn how to replace the system of racism, white supremacy. And you're going to try to establish a system of justice. Which means instead of black folk having to constantly explain to you what racism is, you'll go find out what it is on your own. You'll take a look at your own self. You'll look at your family, look at the surrounding of people around you. You'll look at the odd and end jokes that people make about black folk. You'll look deeply into that and be like, hey man, don't say that shit. You know, because a lot of other racial groups, they take pride in always having a nigga joke for a nigga. You want to hear this joke? That's so funny, Tyrone. It's about this white couple and this black guy. And they were like, hey, you know, yeah, my wife is kind of checking you out. Think you're hot. And the black guy goes, oh, yeah? Well, I got something that's hot. And then the white couple goes, yeah? What is that? Like those type of bullshit jokes. Like, nigga, no. He's always got some type of nigga joke, that Justin Bieber bullshit. That, you know, it's always to me indicative of anything else. So they'll attach black people to anything. But then every other race wants to be, every other racial group, I would say, that's a non-FBA, but they black. They only want to attach themselves to blackness when it's convenient for them. When it's about success, when it's about this, oh, I'm black, you know, black girl magic and black power and all this other stuff. But when it's no longer convenient for them, I'm not black, I'm Haitian. I'm not black, I'm Jamaican. I'm Nigerian. And I just be looking at people like, no, you're black. You know, to me, that's a social construct that they gave you of what you think what your nationality is and all that. That's a construct. That's not even real. That's like the Matrix. White folk done named everybody. White folk thought they was going to East India, so they called all the niggas over there Indians. So, man, please, I won't believe nothing that they say as they lie on the map and try to make it where Europe is the biggest country ever. Where motherfuckers know how big Africa really is. That's why I always tell people this, man. Study, read, pay attention. When you read, you pay more attention. Like, now that I've been reading a lot these last 6, 7, 8 years, when I watch stuff, I look at it differently. Like I always talk about this show called Teen Mom. Go watch it. It's on MTV. You know why I watch Teen Mom? Because it's a bunch of black is not a culture, though. Exactly. Black isn't a culture. A culture is what you make it. Some people would say slavery is a culture. Some people would say that hip hop is our culture and that's what defines us. Some people would say R&B is a culture. Some people would say poor is a culture. Culture is what you make it. And how do you define it? And what are you doing to improve it? That's how I look at it. Because when you think of, as Dame Dash would say, a culture vulture, I would think of people that are taking something that they didn't create and benefiting off of it and giving it back to us wholesale. You know, like, here, man, we're giving, you know, like, here you go. Like, no, nigga, we made this shit up. You know? So that's what I think. And everybody can think differently. I just always look at how when you're dealing with the United States of America Incorporated, only the United States of America Incorporated, you can be black. But then when it's something that's negative, that's attached to blackness, every other racial group, what they do is they separate themselves a lot by being like, oh, well, I'm Dominican, I'm Puerto Rican, I'm this, I'm that. You know what I mean? Damn, why delete your message? That was dope. That was dope, man. I like that comment. I don't know why that shit be deleting shit, unless you deleted it. What's happening, Erica? I see you. But I would just say this. All I'm saying, in layman's terms, is we got to stop distancing ourselves from blackness when it no longer suits us. And I'm talking to every other racial group. I'm talking to my Dominican brothers, my Jamaican brothers, my Haitian brothers. We have to stop doing that. You know what I mean? Because what happens is that's an even greater divide. That's why it doesn't bother me, but I was watching, what's her name? Yvonne Orji from Insecure. And the first thing she said was, well, you know I'm Nigerian. You know, us Nigerians, you know. And I'm just kind of like, well, evidently y'all not that smart if y'all came over here. Because black folk are not going over there. We're staying here and fighting. Foundational Black Americans have been fighting for 450 years. We ain't went nowhere. But every other racial group comes here. So I would consider every other racial group, I would consider every other racial group, if they're not in alignment with Foundational Black Americans, freeloaders. The house always wins and the house should always get paid. I would never go to somebody else's house and disrespect them. No, I'm going to go to their house, treat it like gold, because I would want them to treat my house like gold. And it's so funny. We built this house that everybody's benefiting from, but everybody seems to have selective memory when it comes time to pay the piper. And when it comes time to collect on benefits that we not only earn, but deserve, it's just like, how dare you? That's why I be looking at these things. That's why I'm like, all these shootings, man, we got to really be kind of abreast on what the fuck is going on. Don't pay attention to everything and don't look into it, but you just take stock in inventory and just watch. Watch your surroundings. When you going out, you kicking it, or you going places, be very mindful what the fuck you want. I feel you. They act like they're ashamed of their DNA. Yeah, that's what I mean. And I'm not talking about, damn, why I keep deleting the messages? That's crazy. Why I keep doing that? Damn, that's fucked up, man. I like those messages. I don't know why the fuck is doing that shit. It's probably there's something wrong with the chat. But I'm talking to somebody in the chat. Shout out to Erica. But I'm not talking about everybody. I'm just talking about a lot of Negroes that come over here and they want to be fully integrated into this wicked society. So what they do is they shit on Foundational Black Americans or Native Blacks. And then I'm not ghetto like them. And they start to use those same terms that the dominant society uses. That's why other racial groups, you know, they use black folk as the punching bags. And not when I mean like Haitians, Jamaicans, Dominicans. I'm talking about native black people. That's what they do. You go to these towns like Florida and all, you go to these cities, they got little Haiti. They got little Havana, little Cuba town, Chinatown, Koreatown. They got all that is dedicated solely to them. But when you look for a Foundational Black American, you don't see that. And it's no diss to my other racial groups and my Haitians and Jamaicans, but it's like, well, that's kind of fucked up. And that's done by design. That's done by design. That's why if you come to Las Vegas, Nevada, you see 1 million Latino businesses out here. Thousands of them. And white businesses. And Korean businesses. And Chinese businesses. Japanese businesses. They got their own doctors, they own everything. Lawyers, tax lawyers, IRS, law, everything. They got their own infrastructure set up solely for them. But then when you go to the west side, we got Doolittle Community Center. Where are our lawyer offices? Where are our doctor's offices? You know what I'm saying? What is the shit that benefits us? That's why when you look at these shootings, like, that's why when I was like, at a mobile home community, that must be white folk. Because they done already gave us that title of projects. Like, when you think of a project, you think of black folk. So, sorry. When you dealing with mobile homes and trailer parks, you think about the dominant white society. That's the part that the dominant white society don't want black folk to know exists unless it's Eminem. And they want everybody to think if you coming from a trailer park that you're going to be the next Eminem. They don't want foundational black folk to know that, oh, it's poor white racist people as well. Florida all day. Yeah, that's a fact. You know what I mean? Look, I've never been to Florida, but I've read about it. And, you know, some of the things I've seen, I've heard a lot of people talk about it, and not in a negative way. There's a lot of Cubans, a lot of Jamaicans, a lot of Haitians. And that's fine. But foundational black Americans built this country. And I feel like it should be more just due for us than what we've gotten. You got all this stimulus money. Why don't you just print more money? It doesn't matter anyway. Just print it. Everybody acting like the money is backed by something. It's not backed by anything, so just keep printing money. Why don't you just print it? What does it matter if you print 100 trillion? You can print 100 trillion and give it to black folk and be like, well, here y'all go. This is y'all first. This is solely for foundational black Americans. Watch all these other groups come out. Well, I'm African American too. It'd be just like what was the white bitch that was a Democrat, now she's a Republican? I forgot her name, Susan something. And then she said she was Native American. She was really a pretendian. We had towns and the white people destroyed them. Yep, Edenville and Orlando and Rosewood and Gainesville. Of course, yes. Yes, that's by design. That is by design. Why do you think they did that? Because they know that we are very understanding of what is owed to us. See, every other racial group that comes up here and sets up shop, they're just happy to be here. It's different for black folks. That's why when you go on the corporate plantations, you know, I'm always break it down to that. When you go on the corporate plantations, Jacksonville was named, after Andrew Jackson. Go read. I want everybody to go read The Black History Reader by Dr. Claude Anderson. 101 Questions You Never Thought to Ask. He talks about Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson, I've said this many times. I may not know the whole facts because I haven't read that book in a minute. But Andrew Jackson, now in Florida was sanctioned and owned by either Spain or France, if I'm not mistaken. And there was treaties that was set up for the black Seminoles and the black folk that lived in Florida. And what they did was basically tell Andrew Jackson, hey, Andrew, I know you don't like those niggas, but we got peace treaties set up. That's their land. So when we leave, that's their shit. Andrew Jackson was like, oh, no problem. And then soon as either the Spaniards or the French left, it's one of them. I'm blanking, but it's one of them. When they left, Andrew Jackson went and got the military race soldiers, police, went back over there into Jacksonville, Florida, and back over there in Florida, and straight told all those niggas that was over there, fuck you niggas, this is my motherfucking land, and if you don't get the fuck out of here, I'm killing all you niggas. That's what Andrew Jackson was doing. And they don't want to talk about that shit. And that's a motherfucking fact. Go read it. Go look him up. It was horrible. Let me see. Let's see. What's name? Okay, Rosewood sits in Levy County. You have to go through it to get to the beach called Cedar Key. It was such a beautiful area. Facts. Edenville was just like you're saying. The movie Their Eyes Were Watching, God is actually based on that town. Oh, okay. Spain and Great Britain. Told you. Look. You can always vet me out. I never claimed. That's why the podcast is called No, I Don't Know. But I can tell you what I do know and what I have read. And what I have read from the Black History Reader is that Andrew Jackson straight lied to Spain, to the Spaniards, Cesare and them, and said, oh, yeah, no, they can keep the land. That's for them. You know how y'all white folk do. You know how white folks are. Oh, yeah, man. We're going to work together. And then as soon as fucking them Spaniards left, He basically went over there to all them areas in Florida and was like, and made sure he had the military police too, the military race soldiers, and was like, fuck all you niggas, and if y'all niggas don't get the fuck out of here, I'm killing all y'all niggas. Basically that's what happened. So fuck a Jacksonville. I don't know why they named it Jacksonville. That white supremacist motherfucker. And he had 1,000 slaves too, and 1,000 kids by black women too. Stop. And people don't know that. That's why fuck Andrew Jackson. And then they was gonna put Andrew Jackson on one side of the $20 bill and then put Harriet Tubman on the other side. I'm like, ain't that blasphemous? That's like putting a Jewish person on one side of the dollar and then putting Hitler on the other side of the dollar. Now, the white Jewish community would never do that. So why is it we gotta be accepting of that shit? They don't even, white Jewish people don't even buy Volkswagen. but us, we'll just deal with anything. Facts. It was also written in Lincoln's Lie. Yeah, man, look, y'all niggas know y'all gonna have me going. First of all, fuck Abraham Lincoln. He wanted to save the Union. He didn't give a fuck about no niggas. And then guess what happened after they saved the Union? They made it where niggas couldn't join. That's why niggas was locked and boxed out of the wealth. If you go listen to Dr. Carl Anderson or go read Black Labor, White Wealth, it tells you how they was just giving away acres of land. George Washington, all them off. First of all, let me ask y'all this. That's like me going to Mexico and auctioning off property. They gonna be like, what the fuck is this nigga doing over here? If y'all don't shoot this motherfucker, he don't belong over here. But white folk, the only people I know could go set up shop in somebody else's land. And first of all, let's just back it on up. Because I was watching Exterminate All the Brutes. And what I didn't like about that was they talked about Christopher Columbus, but they didn't talk about how he got over to United States of America Incorporated. First of all, Christopher Columbus got lost. When he tried to sell and use the Spanish crown's money, he got lost for days. He didn't know where he was going. He didn't know how to do anything. So he had to come back and get Moors to navigate the waters to get him to the United States of America. So let's just get that straight first. Let's talk about that first. You know where you can find that in? They Came Before Columbus by Dr. Ivan Van Sertima. It talks about the Moors. First of all, they didn't even know how to build boats and ships. They didn't know how to build that shit. The Moors knew how to do all that. The Moors was doing trading with China, and they was building ships so big, they was putting elephants on ships and sending them to fucking China and doing trades with China and shit like that. Thousands of years ago. That's why those Moors, it's funny, me and my sister was talking about it. She was like, man, according to that book, I don't think the Moors was really fucking with him like that. Hell no, they ain't wasn't fucking with him because he's white. They know how white motherfuckers are. They lie. So they really didn't want to, they probably wanted to kill him, which they could have done because he got lost. And then when they got to the United States of America, when they got to Africa, when they got to these places, he said, I've never seen this type of metal before, this golden metal. And another thing y'all need to understand too, when white folk got here, the British, I don't care who it is, Anglo-Saxons, when they got to the United States of America Incorporated, see, that's where cannibalism started too, because they didn't know how to cultivate the land. They didn't know how to, they were starving. But black folk, the Moors, we knew how to cultivate the land. So that's why they had to have black folk over there. That's why they had to partner up with the black folk. And it's so funny how they always segregate. Well, we stole the Native Americans' land. Man, get the fuck out of here. These so-called Native Americans, we are the original man. Stop with the bullshit. 2 billion acres. That's a fact. These niggas, look, I think it's in it's in Black Labor, White Wealth, if I'm not mistaken. These niggas was just out there giving out free land. It's like, that's like me and my family going to Mexico and just start auctioning off land. Like, hey, man, y'all want this piece? Well, here, y'all can come get this. My whole family will be assassinated. And they wouldn't allow that, but only in the United States of America, they can come over here and just auction off land that ain't theirs. You know what I'm saying? I was reading, and the price for a pound of flesh, right? The Cane Brake plantation. And I forgot the brother's name, the white dude's name. And he was a slave master too, slave owner. And, you know, it was so funny how they tried to paint him as good. Well, you know, he treated his slaves good. What the fuck does that mean? And he, you know, he was trying to write in his will to leave them, you know, housing and all this other stuff, right? But as I'm reading this part, Nick, the first thing, shout out to Nick, man. Shout out to Erica, too. The first thing that I thought about when I was reading this book, it brought me right back to Slavery by Another Name. You can write a will all you want, slave master. But all those other white folks was going to do is saying, we're deeming this white man insane. Because ain't no white man going to give no nigga no property or no money. This nigga done lost this white motherfucker done lost his mind. Fuck them niggas. It ain't they land. And that's what they was doing. So it's so funny to read that type of stuff. Because he probably thought he did good. There was another thing that I read in this book that's going to fuck y'all up. And this was a while ago when I first started reading it. I had to put it down because it kind of irritated me. There was a brother in there. I forgot his name. It's a white slave owner and a black brother. Well, the black brother died first, right? So then the slave master died. But the black brother used to always make sure that the slave master's feet was warm, right? So the black brother had already died. The slave owner died. So in his will, the slave owner was like, y'all need to dig up that, in his will, he put, y'all need to dig up that nigga and rebury him at my foot, because even in death, he's still going to serve me and keep my feet warm. That was in his will. This is what they was doing. If you go read the book, A Price for a Pound of Flesh. This book is fucking bananas. And the author who wrote it, it's very much for kids too. She broke it down, the finances behind it, and how much a woman was worth from like 14 when they got their period all the way to like 40. Because you know, from 14 to 40, they can have babies. So they looking at it like dogs, like how you would breed dogs. Is how they looked at black folk. Still do, in most cases. If you produce a LeBron James, they're gonna go look at their mother and be like, shit, can the bitch produce anymore? Because it's like a farming system. So when I was reading that shit, I was like, damn, that's cold. That's why I feel like it's always imperative for us to understand, read, understand what it is, man. Because like Andrew Jackson and Abraham Lincoln wasn't shit, man. But the dominant society will they will frame this picture that he was a lover of black folk. Man, some of these people were like black, half black, and still didn't give a fuck about no niggas. And wouldn't claim it if they could. Matter of fact, it's people to this day that are black. You would never know that they were, and they would never tell you. You know why? Because it's more beneficial for them to be white. And they gonna act like that blackness don't even exist. I've been around them. I ain't gonna say I've been around them. And it doesn't surprise me. Those are the mulatto class that wants to get next to massa, and they feel like being around black folk gonna get them dirty. You know what I mean? So that shit doesn't bother me. I just think it's very better that we understand who Abraham Lincoln is. That's why I feel like most black folk need to go get Dirty Bookman's prayer and give it to your sons, daughters, nephews, nieces, cousins, aunts. You need to give them that prayer. Why? Because he's talking about replacing the imagery of the white man's God. Why would you praise that God? That God asked them to commit crimes, man. So we cannot be serving the same God. How can you be serving the same goddamn God that's supposed to be so merciful, so wonderful, and his God asked him to commit crimes against us? So why would you do that? No, you replace that image, and when you replace it with somebody that looks like you, so you can draw power from it. Because I'll say it again, like me and Nick was talking about yesterday. You ain't gonna get no power from Cesare. The Spaniard is there for the dominant white society. You're not there for no black folk. And let's not even get on the Borgias. Don't even get me to go in there with them. That was the first Federal Reserve. Federal was not even the first Federal. The Medicis was the first Federal Reserve. The Borgias, who could I compare? We could compare the Borgias to the Bushes. We can compare them to the Bush, to George W. Bush, George W.H. Bush. We can compare them to that family. That's who they were back in the day. The most corrupt, vile, vicious family on the planet. Pope Rodrigo was basically like this. Go read the book, The Borgias. I want you to paint this imagery of Jesus and Mary, and I want Jesus to look like Cesare, my son. And I want Mary to look like Lucrezia, my daughter. You know what I'm saying? And people don't even know that. That's why the Borgia Palace Lord Jesus. The Borgia Palace with the bull as their symbol, and you know they got Jesus. That's where Jesus Christ come from. If you don't believe me, Google it. That Jesus Christ that y'all praying, that deity, so-called deity, ain't nothing but Cesare. So if you're gonna pray to somebody that was wicked and running all this game and stealing from people and fucking over the people, then why wouldn't you not pray to Jean-Jacques Dessalines? If you're gonna pray to somebody, Nat Turner, Denmark Vesey, Gabriel Prosser, why wouldn't you pray to them where you can get some real power? Why would you pray to somebody that look like them? That's not gonna ever draw no power from that. That's why I think it's very imperative that we read. You know what I'm saying? It's so funny, you know, too, because people be like, well, I don't think it's like that. Well, it's called Genetic Annihilation by Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. She's the fear of a black planet. Genetic annihilation. We can fuck them out of existence. That's why. We're the only ones that have the DNA that we can make black and white. We can make albino and we can make black. That's why they used to castrate black men. The testicles. That's where all the power lies. But maybe that's too deep for most people. Who knows? But while you sitting up here, you know, oh man, Mother's Day and all this. Oh, I'm not saying don't celebrate your Mother's Day and all that, but go look at these shootings. See why they're coming back to back. Just like I looked at Keisha Lamami Bottoms. She's deciding not to run. They probably gonna try to get her to run for Senate or some shit like that. They got a little plan for her because she did what the master wanted. So that's why she doesn't want to run no more. She was one of the biggest mammies. Her and Stacey Abrams, aka the Pine Sol Lady. Don't she look like the Pine Sol Lady? I was like, God damn. Then you got Roland Martin around here. These niggas, just like the Black Authority. You know, on his podcast, he right. These niggas is all campaigning trying to get elected for a job. These niggas want jobs, man. And you need to understand that while all this violence is taking place, why is it when it's not black folks committing these violent crimes, it's not really talked about? But when it's black folks committing these crimes, they put the face on TV. They put everything out there so you know everything about them. Y'all don't think that's weird? The first immigration laws was because of the black population. Facts. And not even that. That's one. Two, they did social integration to destroy the movement of foundational black Americans. That's why they did social integration. Let's integrate. Go look at the Montgomery bus boycott. If you go look at the Montgomery the Montgomery bus boycott, when you look at that, they had their own buses, but these niggas wanted to go ride the bus with white folks. And I'm like, and I can imagine a lot of black people like, bro, y'all missing the fucking point. That's why these so-called black leaders that's out here talking about integration and racial injustice and all that, you know, they'll never talk about reparations. They gonna get on TV and talk about everything. They talk about Asian hate. Stop it with these Asian motherfuckers crying wolf, acting like black people just waking up in the morning time and saying, you know what, I'm gonna go to Chinatown and start fucking up their shit. That is not happening. That is not what is going on. It's just anything to practice benign neglect. That's why with integration, basically, now you can create these broad and ambiguous terms, as Dr. Claude Anderson talks about. People of color, minorities. When you start saying minority, you talk about white women too. People didn't know that. You talk about LGBTQ, LMNOP, XYZ. That's why, with my LGBTQ black folks, you need to understand you black first. You got to understand you black first. Because what they have done in that movement too, they have created a separate but equal, like, oh, you cool with us, but as long as you go with the white LGBTQ agenda. You see what I'm saying? And a lot of them do. Like, I've been around LGBTQ before, or not them, just that community before, where you say faggot or you say something like, they get all offensive, but a white motherfucker call you nigga all day and they act like that shit don't bother them. That's when you know they got you. When you more worried about motherfuckers saying faggot than calling you nigga, then you got a problem. Then you have been socially engineered to be a part of that society that ain't never wanted to be a part of you. So remember that when they talk about integration and all that, that is to destroy the movement of native black folk, as Dr. Claude Anderson calls it, or foundational black Americans, as Tariq Nasheed calls it. I like there, and that word is interchangeable to me. Native blacks, FBA. Same thing to me. I think they're both brilliant. Native black is brilliant, and foundational black Americans are brilliant. Because we are the foundation. I was reading in A Price for a Pound of Flesh how one of the slave owners was like, oh, these white people kind of got together and was like, we got to do something for a lot of the older slaves, so they can, rest in peace and they can live out the rest of their days nice. So they kind of got together, was basically trying to put bread together so the older black people, they won't be out in the streets and all that. And they was doing that because one of the slave masters was like, basically, black folk are the foundation of this country. That's real. It fucked me up. Like, that fucked me up in that book. I'm like, see, they knew what the fuck was going on. They knew what they was doing. They still know what they doing. That's why at every court plantation, they put up there what's called corporate wallpaper. If I'm not mistaken, that's what it said in Two Nations. Corporate wallpaper, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on that. Basically, what they do is they frame the picture like it's a whole bunch of niggas working there. But yeah, it's a whole bunch of niggas working there, but ain't none of them in charge. They all regular workers like everybody else. The people that are calling the shots and that's behind the scene, the real Wizard of Oz in the back, those are all dominant society people. All of them. That's why you think if you look at the New York Stock Exchange and let's just look at the wealthiest men that we know, that we have to use their shit every day. You have Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett, a dominant white society person. You have Microsoft, Bill Gates, dominant society motherfucker. And you have Jeff Bezos, dominant white society person. Those three with their wealth is probably more than all the black folks' wealth combined. But you want to tell me that racism doesn't exist and that, in my personal opinion, white folk are not as violent as every other racial group? Because they want to put this tag on black folk that we so violent and we just drug addicts and dope fiends. That's why I watch MTV, Teen Mom. And the reason why I was telling y'all I watch MTV Teen Mom is because in Teen Mom, it's the majority of the women that's on there, they're white, and the majority of them are dope fiends. And it's one girl on there. This white girl has got 4 kids by 3 different motherfuckers, and they be cheering her on and feeling like she's so powerful and she's so strong. And I'm like, now a black woman, if she's got 1 kid and no baby mama around, she gets a bad rep. But this white girl's got 4 children. 4 children, 3 baby fathers. The last one just happens to be black and he don't want to be bothered with the bullshit. And then all of a sudden, when he didn't want to be bothered, the bitch basically says, oh, I didn't want to be in a volatile situation. So guess what? And he's black. So guess what most people gonna think? Oh, he's violent. But guess what? I watched this show and I've been watching it for 10 years. This white girl that said she didn't want to be in a violent show, years ago, she was going oops upside her second baby daddy's head on camera. I mean, bopped him like 3 or 4 times. Just fucked him up. And they didn't do anything to her. They didn't reprimand her on the show. They didn't do nothing. They made the bitch go get counseling. These are white women. Just like there's another white girl that's on the show, just a straight dope fiend. They hid that the whole season. Years later, this bitch coming out talking about, yeah, I was addicted to painkillers. Bitch, we knew that. We saw what you was doing. But they know how to stay on code. Then there was another white woman on the show who got 2 kids, right? She beat the shit out of her baby dad on camera, doing drugs, ended up going to jail. I just be laughing because black women and black folk as a whole, we get this horrible rap about who we are and how violent we are and how much we on crack and this and that. But on TV, I'm watching white women have multiple kids by different men, in and out of jail, dope fiends, and they get praised for that shit. Praises. And when it's a black dad that actually speaks up for himself, he's labeled the oppositional person, basically the violent bad person. Anytime a black person, it's another brother on there. They out of Florida too. See, when you read, you start looking at it differently. Once you start reading, you look at everything different. There's another brother on there, and he's got a baby with this Puerto Rican sister. She's got a baby by somebody else. She's been a horrible mom to me the whole time. But every time he fucks up, it's always him. It's always him. It's always him. The other brother she had a baby by, that motherfucker don't ever be around. But the brother that's always around, he can't do one thing right. It's always him. It's always him. I said, it's so funny that this brother gets the bad rap for everything. And anytime he speaks up, it's a problem. And that's how the United States of America works. That's why in these shootings, they are not discussing who's doing the shootings. Was it a white person who did the shooting in the mobile home community? Or was it a black person? I feel like if it was a black person, they would have told us a long time ago. So I'm telling you right now, man, pay attention to what the fuck is going on. Read, understand that Abraham Lincoln did not free the slaves. He wanted to save the Union. Andrew Jackson was the biggest anti-black white supremacist in captivity, along with his other good buddies like George Washington with that chicken shit talking about he'd never tell a lie. Please, his whole existence is a lie. With his good yanking the black people's teeth out of their mouth and making dentures out of it because he didn't have no motherfucking teeth. He was gummies. That bullshit. So he had to yank the teeth out of black people. This is the type of shit he was doing. With this good, I wouldn't tell a lie, with them moist ass wigs these niggas was wearing. I'm like, the fuck was these niggas on? But anyway, man, I went over by a lot. I got a lot of shit to do. I appreciate everybody listening, subscribing. Shout out to everybody out there, man. Erica, shout out to you. Nick, you already know what it is, man. I try to get on here and just speak from the dome and speak from the heart. You feel me? Look, I got to plug this charger in. Oh, this motherfucker gonna cut off. But I appreciate everybody listening, subscribing. Make sure you're studying. I do got Buck Breaking. I haven't watched it yet. That's why I haven't done a podcast on it. I can't wait to watch it. Because once I watch it, then I'm going to do a whole podcast on Buck Breaking. It's look, I ain't even took it out the plastic. I really want it to be a collectible item. I don't even want to open it out of the plastic because I feel like what Tariq Nasheed is doing with his movies is monumental for black folk. It is. I've never seen nothing like this before. Not growing up. Not like that. Not where it's catering to black folk and putting the dominant society on blast. No. Normally, what they do is they do like documentaries do. They talk a little bit about black folk and then they'll cater to the dominant society. Like in most documentaries that come out. I'm talking about that's funded by the dominant society. So, hey, man, appreciate everybody listening, subscribing, whatever it is. Send this page to anybody that fuck with. If they don't send it to them. Hey, man, love the life. Stay in your lane. Don't get in nobody else's. If somebody is telling you they don't see color and racism doesn't exist, they are black, they are the biggest Sambo, Mammy, tell them about the gun line boss, Hayward Shepherd motherfucker that you will ever meet in your life. And if I were you, I would get the fuck away from them. I'm out, man. Guilty, nigga. Peace.